Here's a thing, and I've recently was discussing this with a lady called Dr. Sherry McAllister, who was on my podcast, and she's a chiropractor, and we were talking about the parasympathetic nervous system and how if you have um, an emotional belief that your brain or your emotional system, the subconscious, hasn't been able to close off and fix the loop, it will self-sabotage you, right? And again, but that goes and this one, I'm being very careful with the caveats here, because that can be taken away and put on a stage and called limiting beliefs, right? So one of those would be like, if you believe every time you get a certain level of success or a certain level of fitness, it's going to hurt you down the road. And you hear top athletes talk about how they sometimes struggle to recover from injuries because
Mm.
they think, do you know what I mean? Because last time this happened. Your nervous system can start shutting you down and say, no, no, we're not doing that. It's dangerous. But there will be and I say this very carefully, a limiting belief or a belief that your subconscious needs to resolve, right?
Mm.
Um, and it's going to take it a sidetrack here, and it's not intentional, but we were specifically talking about if you get ghosted by somebody. And the problem with that is your brain, your cognitive brain, can logically solve the problem.
Mm.
The emotional side of the body is like, I was invested in this person, I was invested in this future. This is the way that I perceive myself moving forward. I don't know what I did wrong. So because I don't know what I did wrong, I'm going to stay in an emotional loop. And your body can start getting triggered by that. And
Mm.
sometimes that's where anxiety attacks come from. People are like, I don't know why I feel anxious. I don't know where this come from. And it can be many years down the line. And look, actually, inadvertently in that previous conversation, when I was talking about it's feedback, not criticism, right?
Mm.
That is a subconscious belief. And I know this because I kind of did some of the triggered related to my relationship with my dad. Could only ever happen when I was talking to male bosses. Do you know what I mean? And it was just like, okay, right. But so there's a way that my brain would perceive things in certain events. So you can have what law of attraction calls limiting beliefs,
Yeah.
but that's not going to magically unfold into Narnia land. And then it's that. But what that enabled me to do is see in hindsight that there were interactions I had with people where I was responding in a certain way, regardless of whether it was feedback or criticism. I would never have been able to tell you if it was if it was subjective criticism, because I was objectively in the wrong frame of mind, like emotionally, subconsciously, my mind was, whenever a figure like this says something to you, you're being it's your dad telling you off for something you haven't done.
Mm.
All right. Right. So once I resolved that, it didn't automatically change it, but it made me realize, take a second, listen to the context of what's being said and why it's being said to you. And suddenly, actually, I might be getting some feedback. All right. So there is this thing, and it's well known in psychology, it's well known in NLP. You and I have done a lot of work around NLP. Well done. It's very well utilized in cults. Your limiting beliefs. Right?
Yep.
And if I can tap into that limiting belief, sometimes it can be positive, sometimes it will get a negative result, depending on what I'm trying to manipulate. And
Yeah.
and that's where I go with the, you've got to be careful why you're trying to manifest something. What is it you're actually trying to achieve? And going back to the Henry Ford thing, in reality, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're probably right. When we were watching that video earlier, they listed, Conor McGregor. He's talked about manifesting. Jim Carrey's talked about manifesting, but nobody talks about the people that Conor McGregor beat. Nobody,
No.
nobody talks about the thousands of hours that Conor McGregor put into training before he ever won a title, before anybody even knew
Yeah.
who he was.
Let
You
me
know,
just pause a second. And I really need to go bathroom. Back in a second.
no,
Hold that thought. Right, back. So then we need to look at the flip side of law of attraction, the amount of people that use it versus the amount of people we realistically achieve success off it. Because Conor McGregor's opponent didn't. Whoever's been beaten in a race has not achieved what they wanted to achieve through law of attraction despite using it. So that's
Well,
every Olympian. That's
yeah,
everybody that hasn't got the success that they thought they should have done over somebody else getting that. So it comes to competition, I suppose, and what a person's prepared to do. So that then comes for me into kind of what personality type have you got? Not what limiting belief do you have, is what are you really understanding what you're up against?
I had two examples I just want to give. Michael Johnson was the former 200 and 400 meter runner for America in the 90s.
Mm,
Regardless, kind of regarded as one of the greatest of all time. And I remember him talking about visualization, right? And how he said people used to tell him to see yourself on the podium. And he said he started doing that, and then he was like, "But that's not me." He said, "If I was on the podium looking at a gold medal, I'd see a gold medal in my hand." So I started visualizing that, right? And but he also talked about him and his coach had this philosophy that anything other than winning was not acceptable. If you came second with a personal best, not acceptable. You had to win. It was better
mm,
to win and not have a personal best. And so and then you've got the training he did, his genetics, just having all of the right genetics to be able to run. Bearing in mind, he ran in a style that nobody else ran in because they worked
yeah,
on efficiency and stuff like that. And then I don't remember this lady's name, but I knew her, and she was a barmaid at Witherspoons in Amesbury, and she had I can't remember something like thoughts and vibrations or what you know what you something you can achieve tattooed on her arm, but you're serving drinks to drunks in Witherspoon. But she had these law of attraction things tattooed on her arm as a reminder to keep focused, to keep this, to keep that. And you just like, and I mean, and there's no way of saying this without it sounding nice, but it's like, how's that working out for you, love?